Hey everyone, welcome to DevCentral Live. It's that time, it's Thursday, it's 12:30 Pacific, and this is our chance to connect with you, our F5 DevCentral community. So it's exciting to be here today and to interact with all of you. As we do every time, we live stream to YouTube and LinkedIn and Periscope. So if you've got any questions or want to interact with us today, then you can type them there in the comments, and we will interact with you. We'll connect with you live right now, right? So I wanted to share with all of you that October is National Cyber Security Awareness Month, and so today's the first day of that. And we have an exciting show today. We have an awesome guest that's going to dive right into all things cybersecurity. But before we get to that, I just wanted to say a word about cybersecurity. And that is that the cybersecurity field, or the cybersecurity, mindset, frankly, can take on a number of different looks. You can have everyone from the CEO of a company to the CISO of a company to the lowest worker, whatever it is. Everyone is involved in cybersecurity, and so. I just wanted to encourage all of you that would watch this, that are watching this, that we all have a part to play, and we're all involved in this. And don't think that, hey, cybersecurity is only for the expert down the hall kind of a thing, and that's not really my job or my anything that's important to me. It should be important to all of us. And so anyway, so with that, I want to introduce the guest that I have today. Her name is Mary Gardner. She's the Chief Information Security Officer for F5, and she has a fascinating story, and I'm excited to be able to talk to her today, and for all of you to enjoy that as well. So with that, let's transition and let's introduce Ms. Mary Gardner. Well, Mary Gardner, it is exciting to have you here on behalf of DevCentral and our community. Welcome to DevCentral Connects, and thanks for being here today.
Thank you, John. I really admire the DevCentral community, and I think it's a real honor to be able to chat with you guys today.
Well, Mary, I can speak for all of us when we say the feeling is mutual. The DevCentral community admires you as well. So it's a symbiotic relationship, right? It's a great. Fantastic. So, Mary, I mentioned a couple of seconds ago that some people, I believe, feel like in order to be in the cybersecurity field, you have to go down like a certain path. You got to get that computer science degree, or that certain certification or whatever. And your story, I feel like, is a fascinating one. So if you don't mind, maybe share with us just a quick version of your story and how you got to be the F5 CISO.
Sure. I'm really thankful that I started my career before there were a lot of requirements, and even before there was a program for information security, right?
Yeah.
Because I wanted to be I apologize for my dog.
Hey, listen, this is DevCentral Live. We're connecting. We're connecting everybody. It's all good.
Good, because she wants to connect.
We all want to connect. Love it.
So I started out as a biologist. My training, my bachelor's degree, and part of a PhD is in cell biology.
Wow.
And I realized that the field requires a lot of persistence and patience, and it's slow. And I don't necessarily have that level of patience. So I decided I needed to find a new career path. So I went into technology kind of by happenstance. I was working for a bank, and I had to build some dashboards for my staff. Okay. And I learned SQL. I deployed a website for the intranet, and that's kind of all she wrote. I went down the path of working for a small software company, moved from New Mexico up to Washington State, worked for a .com, and met a mentor who really helped me develop my security skill set. And then I started working for Washington Mutual, leading the security assessments program. And I've been in security ever since, so pretty much 20 years.
Amazing. Amazing.
Yeah, it's been fun.
It's an exciting ride, man. What a fascinating story. So you started off in biology,
Yeah.
and the whole medical thing, right? And then now here you are, F5 CISO. And this is not your first CISO position, right? You were at a hospital there in Seattle, is that right?
Yes, I was at Seattle Children's prior to starting at F5.
Fantastic. So that's kind of like your two worlds colliding a little bit. That's the biology and the technology.
Yeah,
right?
and that was a great marriage of my skill sets, because
Yeah.
I knew kind of the mindset that the docs and the scientists had.
Right.
So I was able to speak to them, I think.
Yeah, you can kind of speak their biology language.
Yeah.
While talking technology as well. That's fascinating. You know, so well, thanks for sharing that. It's really cool to hear people's stories, and how do you get into that position, and all that stuff. I've talked to a lot of people, whether they're in the IT field or maybe they're trying to break into it from a totally different field. I was talking to one guy not long ago. He's an electrician, and he wants to get into the IT field and be a security guy. And I was like, I kind of joked around with him a little bit. I was like, well, you've already got layer one figured out. You've got the ones and zeros, the voltage, right? So anyway, but I think there's a lot of people that either want to get in, or like, hey, maybe I'm in and I want to move around or whatever. But along those lines, I know you've talked recently about the lack of talents, the lack of availability in the IT security field. So maybe talk to us about that. Like, why is that? And what are some things that you're looking for, to like recruit into this field?
Yeah. Well, I honestly think part of this is a problem of our own making. So we've made the barriers to enter information security really high. So if you look at most of the job descriptions out there, they require CISSP certifications or a 4-year degree in information security. And the degree programs for information security are very hard to find. I think there's, a limited number of schools that have a 4-year degree in InfoSec. Wow. So what I look for when I'm posting a job position is I do have specific experience requirements, but I try and temper that with some characteristics that we can't teach, which is curiosity, passion, and the ability to negotiate. Because I think information security has a lot to do with successful negotiation skills and explanation skills.
Yeah. Fascinating. I mean, who would have thought that, as you come into the IT security field, that negotiations and curiosity and, those kinds of things are the primary thing that you might be looking for. And I know you've said it before, but there are skills that the collective we can teach, right? Like if you don't know a certain programming language, we can do that. But that innate curiosity, that drive is something that we might, not be able to teach quite as well.
Exactly. And when I look at curiosity and negotiation skills, it's part of really a problem-solving mindset. And every day information security will throw a new problem at you.
Yeah.
The hackers are definitely innovating and evolving very quickly. And I think to rise to that challenge, we really need some thinkers who can problem solve through that.
Yeah.
And respond to the attacks.
Wow. That's fascinating. And it makes a ton of sense. It's like, hey, we need people that can think, that can reason, that can negotiate, whether it's negotiating with other people or negotiating just the problem in their own mind. How do you solve this thing? And it may not look like the book answer, we may need to kind of think outside the box, as it were, a little bit. So, one thing that I'm fascinated about is when we look at the career, like the job listing on a certain web page, whatever, how from the CISO perspective does that make its way back to the HR department at some of these companies to say, hey, HR, let's not require certain things, and maybe let's look at other things, and because we're missing a big pool of what would be talent, right?
And I think it has to do a lot with making sure that you're working hand in glove with your recruiter.
Mm.
And again, it goes a little bit back to the negotiation skill set, right?
Yeah.
And yes, I know I need somebody who has the ability to think and reason, and I may want to demonstrate that in the job description by requesting a 4-year degree. But really, that doesn't necessarily mean a degree in information technology or even information security, right? It's more the skills that getting that degree gets you.
Okay.
And I generally spend time with the recruiters to really dial in the job description, because we also have to be careful about keyword searches, etc., so that we're not throwing out 90% of the good candidates and keeping only 10%, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I dare say at F5 specifically, we would have lost out on a CISO had we said, hey, you can't have a biology background and be here, right? So it's a great story. It's a great, great example. Well, so I guess what I would say maybe to those that are watching now or would watch this in the future, don't be scared. If you have a biology background, or if you have a, maybe more of a liberal arts, background, or whatever, something non-technical related, don't let that stop you. Keep going and be curious, and have that desire and those negotiating skills that we talked about, right?
Yeah, and I can't stress enough what the ability to have a mentor meant to me, and having mentors throughout my career, because they've really helped shape my career and helped get me to the position that I'm in.
Yeah.
So find a mentor in the information security space. I know that 90% of my peers that I know of, I could give you names right off the top of my head about people who would love to be mentors to people entering the information security space.
That's awesome. Mentorship is so critical. And it's nice that, that you said that there's a lot of people that are desiring to be the mentor. So I think that goes both ways. If you need a mentor, then reach out and talk to people, or if you say, hey, maybe I've got what it takes to be a mentor. And maybe some people think, I can't be a mentor, I don't know it all. Well, you can be a mentor for some things, right? You don't have to mentor everything.
Absolutely. It's about pointing people in the right direction. You don't have to learn the stuff for them. You don't have to do the work for them, but give them the right resources. And that's generally enough to get them on the path. Yeah.
And then guess what? That curiosity and that desire are going to kick into gear.
Yeah.
And do well. I love it. Well, that's awesome. Hey, you mentioned also that the attackers seem to kind of have the upper hand on us, especially when it comes to the shortage in IT talent. So maybe talk about that for a quick second. Why is that? How can we kind of help with that?
Well, I think they're not confined by some of the restraints we are. So the hackers can actually go out and look at boards and try and attract talent in different ways. And they can attract the talent at a very young age. So they go out on message boards, they find 13, 14-year-olds that have an ability to develop code, and they say, hey, do you want to develop something for me? I'll pay you in Bitcoin. And then it's kind of like putting a lure out there and reeling the kids in.
Yeah.
And in a lot of cases, the kids don't necessarily know that they're getting into a hacking situation. There was a great article written about the gentleman who found the kill switch in the WannaCry ransomware.
Yes.
That was published in Wired, that I highly recommend. It's a fascinating read, but it really shows how organized the hackers can be and how early they can get their tentacles on somebody. A fascinating read. Highly recommend.
It's I know the story you're talking about. It's Marcus Hutchins is the guy's name, if I remember right. And if I remember his story, and this is maybe fairly typical of how attackers are going to lure in some of this talent. They're not necessarily going to send you an email and say, hey, man, I'm an attacker and I'd like to do some really bad, illegal things. Would you like to join me? right? It's going to be more of a, hey, we're interested in this little piece of code. If you could help us like with that, then, you know, you're going to see however many Bitcoin in your virtual wallet here pretty soon or whatever, right?
And they use people's curiosity.
Yeah.
To bring them in. Hey, we're trying to solve this problem.
Wow.
Help us solve this problem, and we'll give you some Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, you've developed, you know, a bot or some really nasty ransomware that you didn't even realize you were developing as you go along the path, or these kids are developing. And the next thing you know, you're in an airport being approached by the FBI.
Right. Which is literally what happened to Marcus Hutchins. Yeah, that's fascinating. And it's, you know, so I guess a couple of things. I mean, one, I see the curiosity. I see the draw from a, you know, if I'm a 14-year-old kid and someone offers me some Bitcoin and I can go buy a brand new PlayStation or whatever, brand new TV or whatever it is, you know, that stuff, then that's fascinating. And it's tax-free, right?
Right.
Or you have F5 saying, hey, come work for us, and, you know, and it's going to be great also. So how do we overcome that, like as a company or as an industry?
I think part of it is maintaining our involvement in STEM programs and making sure that we're getting in front of kids early, because in a lot of cases, these situations, again, are happening when the kids are 13, 14 years old, and somebody is approaching them with an offer to exercise and grow their passion.
Yeah.
Right? We need to give them a different way to grow their passion in a legal manner.
Right.
And also potentially give them some rewards for doing it. I mean, basically what we're saying right now to kids is, yeah, go get your degree. Find a way to get the money to get your degree, and in 6 to 8 years, we'll give you a paying job. So we've got to make it more enticing for them, I think, and we've got to get to them early and really show what this career is all about and how important it is, and, you know, how much they can exercise their passion in a legal way.
In a legal way, and for a long time. That's you know, the security world, the IT world, it changes so fast that, you know, you've been in it for many years. I've been in it for a few years myself. And one of the things I love about it is that, you know, the way that it looks today is nothing like the way it looked when I got in. And so as I look ahead, I think, man, there's so many years of this where I could just never quit kind of thing. And that's exciting. And to know I can do that legally, and, you know, there's not all that, you know, stuff burdening me that the FBI is going to come tap on my shoulder one day.
Right. And, you know, security is such a broad field. We have to know about every part of the organization, from the technical perspective to the business. We have to understand the business as much as we do the technical implementations, and it's fascinating. I can tell you honestly that since I have been in information security, I have not gone home without learning something.
Yeah.
On a daily basis, it's amazing.
Yeah. It's fascinating. So Mary, you literally learn something new every day.
Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. I love it. It's exciting. You know, you just engage the brain and just all that stuff. There's so many great things. Well, hey, on that note, as you know, we're streaming this live and people are interacting. There was actually one person that had a question, Pete Silva, the amazing talent there at F5. Speaking of F5 talent, he wanted to know, what do you find most fun or maybe challenging about being CISO?
So I think the most fun part I've already addressed. It's the ability to learn something new every day.
Yeah.
And and again, it runs the gamut from a technology learning to a business learning to learning about people. You know, you really get to learn about people and how they approach problems and negotiations as a CISO. Probably the most challenging, everything I do almost, or every decision the information security organization makes, impacts the majority of our employees.
Mm-hmm.
And making sure that what we're doing from a security perspective is the right thing to do and introduces as little business friction as possible. You know, if I require everybody to use a 35-character password, it's gonna be secure, and I can probably, you know, justify that, but it doesn't help the business. So making sure I've got that balance close to correct. It's never going to be 100% correct.
No.
Is one of the things. The other thing is just, and you alluded to this, security is a job that's never done. It's a journey, not a destination. And sometimes on a regular basis, you can get mired in there's still so much more to do.
Yeah.
But again, you know, that's a challenge and an opportunity.
It is. It's as one person used to tell me, it's an opportunity to excel, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Well, that's and you know, frankly, some of the most interesting opportunities are challenging ones, right? So challenge and opportunity, they're together. That's fascinating. It's fascinating. Well, really cool. One of the things, and I know we're kind of getting low on time here, man, this has just gone by like that fast. But one of the things I wanted to ask you too is, since we're all at home, coronavirus and, you know, remote and all that kind of stuff, are there some things that you have seen that have been challenging from a work from home perspective, you know, security wise, or maybe even some good parts about it?
Yeah, for the most part, security seriously as they're working from home. I know I set up a mesh network so that I can do things like this video stream without having some massive delays.
Right.
And when I purchased this and I was setting it up, one of the things that was in the instructions is don't change your SSID or password for convenience when connecting your other devices.
Yeah.
And that's just bad security practice. And one of the things we've seen with the pandemic is a real shift to attackers trying to use DDoS attacks. And the way DDoS attacks are scaled is by using devices like the mesh network that are poorly configured to scale their attacks with Internet of Things bots. And I think that's something we can all take away is when you deploy that Ring doorbell or the mesh network, change the default password, please. We're really in a place with the pandemic that we have an ecosystem, and we're not in individual offices anymore. So what you do in your network is going to affect your neighbor, whether or not they work for the same corporation. So I think we all need to remember that we need to be part of the cyber neighborhood watch.
We're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all in this together. And that's kind of what I mentioned there at the very beginning, is that, you know, some people think, hey, well, security, that's the job of the CISO, right? It's not my job, or, you know, I'm not qualified for that or whatever. But the truth is that's not true. We're all in this. It's everybody's job.
And one of the things, going back to that, number one, thank you for saying that in your intro, because I can set policy and I can put controls in place, but ultimately everybody has the choice as to how to implement those controls. And if the interface between the keyboard and the person isn't fully aware or thinking about it, security is going to fail.
Yeah, that's right. It kind of comes down to the individual in a lot of these cases. That's right. That's fascinating. Well, good stuff. Well, hey, I know we're almost at time here, but I was going to ask if there's any nugget of wisdom that you might leave with us today from the CISO chair, you know, things that you would just want us to know.
I would just go back to the fact that we all have a role to play in information security. And number one, thank you for accepting and playing that role. And number two, take it seriously. because it's not just about the work environment. It really is about the ecosystem as a whole.
It is. I appreciate you saying that. It's kind of cool to think that, hey, I'm a part of a larger ecosystem that everybody shares.
Yeah.
And I need to do my part, which is true in a lot of things, but certainly in the cybersecurity, information security field, that's certainly true. So great word of wisdom, man. I can see why F5 chose you as the CISO, Miss Mary Gardner. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, hey, we are at time now. I tell you, when you're having fun, Mary, it's like when you're learning something new every day. Time just goes by like that. It's so awesome. And I just wanted to say thank you for being here, for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know there's 1,000 other things you could have been doing right now, but you're here with us to connect on DevCentral. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, John. You made it easy and you made it fun.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
We'll see you. All right. Bye-bye. Well, everybody, I just want to say thanks again to Mary Gardner, our CISO, for all the work she does every day at F5 and being part of that ecosystem. So, again, just to encourage everyone out there, we're all part of this. We're all in this together. So you don't have to be the CIO or the CEO or the CISO or any of the C-level stuff. You are an important part in this information security ecosystem. So let's get excited. Let's be curious, like Mary talked about today. And let's have that desire to learn something new every day. So it's an exciting place to be. So thanks for hanging in there with us on DevCentral Connects today. As always, we live stream every Thursday at 12:30 Pacific. So I'll be back next week with my cohort, with my partner in crime, Jason Rahm for DevCentral Connects. And this whole month of October, we're going to have some really exciting content around cybersecurity awareness. So we'll talk to our security operations center guys and all kinds of fun stuff. So stay tuned, and we will see you guys next Thursday.